Good morning, grade 4 students. Once again, welcome to our scientific day with Miss Shara. So, how are you today? Are you doing good? That's great. I am always happy to be with you every day. Let us have our learning targets for today. First, I can identify the symbols in the weather maps. I can explain the importance of weather forecasting. To do that, let us read our work plan. Science bits, review on elements of weather, discussion on weather forecasts, activity on weather forecasts, and thumbs it. Let's have a bit about science. Okay, let's use our naturalist intelligence. So, how do we know the climate is changing? And the scientific community is certain that the Earth's climate is changing because of the trends that we see in the instrumented climate record. So, you will look at the picture, and we use different instruments, just like what we have talked about using weather instruments. So, we record this data that comes from these instruments and the changes that have been observed in physical and biological systems. The instrumental record of climate change is derived from thousands of temperature and precipitation recording stations around the world. Right? Isn't that amazing? That we use different instruments so that we can know that climate is changing. Now let's have a review about elements of weather. So we are going to play a game, a hidden picture game. I will show pictures a bit or little bit about picture, and then you're going to guess what is in the picture. So every picture I will give you 10 seconds to guess what it is. Hey, how about this one? Okay, you are right. This is air pressure. Air pressure is the weight of air in our atmosphere. Let's have another one. Can you guess? Wow, so this is humidity. Very easy, no? Humidity is the percentage of the maximum amount of water air can hold at a given temperature. Alright, guess what? What is it? Let me show you. Right, a cloud. A cloud is a mass of water drops or ice crystals suspended in the atmosphere. So this is also elements of weather. Let's have the last one. Can you guess? Right, so what is in the picture? Precipitation. Precipitation is any form of moisture that falls on Earth. So we have dew, mist, fog, rain, hail, and sleet. So these are any form of moisture that falls on Earth. We call it as precipitation. It is also one element of weather. Now that we know the elements of weather, we can talk about the weather forecast. So this is our lesson covered for today. Weather forecast. So let's have two essential questions that we can answer as we go along with our discussion. First, what is weather forecast? Why do you think weather forecasting is important? Come on, let's go. Let's start. We've been talking about weather now. So let's see meteorology in action. What is meteorology in action? This is the science of weather and weather forecasting. We already talked about types of weather, weather instruments, elements of weather. Now let's go to weather forecasting. Meteorologists, what do they do? Let's find out. Let's listen.
Well, the question is, what is a meteorologist? Well, that's what I am, and it takes years and years of school, and we study the weather and the atmosphere using that knowledge and my experience to try to predict the weather. We also track storms, thunderstorms, hurricanes, any kind of storm. And to do that, we use our knowledge in all kinds of different computers in our weather center, with radar and satellites to help us see what's going on. Now, it's not a perfect science, but we try our best to get it right. Kind of think of it, when was the last time you got 100% on every one of your tests? We also try to let you know about dangerous weather so you can protect yourself.
There are two kinds of meteorologists. The first one is research scientists. So these scientists are the one who studies how and why weather happens. The second one is the weather forecasters. They are the ones who predicts what the future will be. Today, let's be little weather forecaster. Let's learn about weather forecasting. So what is weather forecasting? Weather forecasting is a prediction of what the weather will be like in an hour, tomorrow, or next week. Weather forecasting involves a combination of computer models, observation, and knowledge and patterns. By using these methods, reasonably accurate forecasts can be made up to 7 days in advance. Right? So checking the weather forecast helps determine what the weather is and how it might change. So how do meteorologists forecast the weather? We have weather predictors. So what are these weather predictors? So if you will look at the picture, you can easily remember. We had our game, Guess What? And we talk about elements of weather. So these elements of weathers are our weather predictors. So what are these? We have the temperature. So we can know if it's hot or cold outside. Then we have the rainfall or precipitations. If it's summer, yeah, and high summer rains, we have less summer rains, something like that. We also have the air movement or wind movement. We have rear wind, northerly winds, easterly winds. We talk about the wind direction. So where do you think this wind comes from? It comes from the north or it comes from the east. Then we have visibility or the fogginess, the presence of mist. Ayan. Mist and dew in the morning, the presence of haze or something that covers up the atmosphere. And we also have clouds. Yeah, we have clouds cover. This is the whip. So what kind of description can we give? Whips, feathery, cirrus clouds. Ayan. So these are the predictors of weather. We know the predictors, but how do you think we can collect, the data from these predictors? How can we know what the temperature? So how weather data are collected? if meteorologists knew more about how the atmosphere functions, they would be able to make more accurate forecasts from day to day or even from week to week. It is impossible for meteorologists to know all this, but they do have some tools that help them accurately forecast weather for a day or two in advance. But because the atmosphere is constantly changing, detailed forecast for more than a week or two will never be possible. So weather is just too unpredictable. What are these tools? Right, so we have a weather station. So the weather station contains many instruments for measuring weather factors. So a weather station is a collection of instruments that measures atmospheric conditions to help study the weather and climate of a specific location. So this is simply a facility with tools and technology used to forecast the weather. This one is a weather balloon. We already talked about this when we discussed weather instruments. So this is a balloon that carries instruments aloft to send back atmospheric information. This weather balloon will rise into the atmosphere until it bursts. As it rises, it will gather weather data and send them to the surface. So a typical weather balloon can last over 2 hours as it rises into the sky. But what happens when the balloon reaches our upper atmosphere? It expands and explodes because of the lower air pressure at higher altitude. Right? So this is also called a sounding balloon, a balloon that carries instruments that send back information. Yan. So there is a radio zone attached to it that is powered by radio transmitter to relay data from all three instruments back to receivers on the ground. Ayan. We also have weather satellite. Many weather satellites orbit Earth. They constantly collect and transmit weather data from high above the surface. So they are primarily used to monitor the weather and climate of the Earth. A weather satellite is a type of satellite that is primarily used to gather data or monitor the weather and climate. Now this one is a weather radar. So primarily used also to monitor the weather and climate of the Earth. Weather radar, also called weather surveillance radar or WSR, and Doppler weather radar is a type of radar used to locate precipitation, calculate its motion, and estimate its type. So rain, snow, hail, etc. Radar is another tool of weather observation and forecasting. It is used also primarily to observe clouds and rain locally. So as meteorologists gather data, they gather from ground station and weather satellites, and weather radar and weather balloon to make weather maps. So what are these weather maps? Imagine it's the night before a big outdoor birthday party for your friend. How do you know what to wear? You don't want to wear a sweatshirt and jeans if it's going to be really hot. And you don't want to wear shorts and a tank top if it's going to be really cold. Looking at a weather map can help you plan for the day. Weather maps are maps that show what the weather will be like in a certain area for the day and for the coming days. What kinds of symbols and maps are used to analyze the weather? Have you ever watched the weather forecasters on TV? If so, you have seen a meteorologist or the weather forecasters talk about the weather. They use weather maps that shows the temperature and if it's going to rain, snow, storm, and more. So these maps help you plan your day. Most weather maps have a legend. A legend is like a key that tells you how to read a map. Tells you what the symbols on the map mean. Right? So meteorologists use different types of weather maps to show forecast. Right? So today we are just going to talk about a few symbols that you can see in the weather map. So if you will look at this symbol, this symbol indicating sunny conditions and clear skies. So if you see a sun, this is the most well-known of all the weather symbols. This symbols indicating sunny conditions. Okay? This one, you see a sun covered partly with a cloud. So you can say that this is partly cloudy during the day. So the day will be mostly sunny with patches of cloud covered during the day. And partly cloudy. So this one is the opposite. So we have the moon covered with clouds. So we have partly cloudy at night. So the night will be mostly clear with patches of cloud covered during the night. So a cloudy night. Now if you will look at this picture, so we have clouds with lightning and rain. This is what we call stormy conditions. So thunderstorm with strong winds, lightning, and heavy rain can be expected. These are one of the symbols that you should not ignore, simply due to the dangerous conditions that accompany a weather event. Let's have an example of a weather forecast.
Para naman sa extended weather outlook natin dito sa Metro Manila tutok papasok na linggo, ay inaasahan natin na magpapatuloy ang maliwalas sa panahon at mga isolated thunderstorms ang pwede magdulot ng mga pagulan. Ang agwat ng temperatura ay maglalaro mula 24 hanggang 32 degrees Celsius. Sa Baguio City naman, patuloy pa rin maaliwalas sa panahon ang inaasahan at may chance lamang na mga isolated rain showers or thunderstorm. Ang agwat ng temperatura ay maglalaro 14 hanggang 24 degrees Celsius. Sa Legazpi City naman, inaasahan pa rin natin ang patuloy na maliwalas sa panahon at isolated rain showers at thunderstorms ang pwede magdulot ng mga pag-ulan. Agwat ng temperatura ay maglalaro mula 25 hanggang 32 degrees Celsius. Diyan sa Metro Cebu, inaasahan din natin ang maaliwalas sa panahon hanggang Martes at ang agwat ng temperatura ay maglalaro mula 24 hanggang 32 degrees Celsius. At dyan naman sa Metro Davao, inaasahan din natin ang maliwalas sa panahon at isolated thunderstorm o localized thunderstorm ang pwede magdulot ng mga pag-ulan. Agwat ang temperatura ay maglalaro mula 24 hanggang 34 degrees Celsius. So nakita natin sa ating extended outlook hanggang Martes, ay inaasahan natin na generally mainit o maaliwalas sa panahon ang inaasahan sa malaking bahagi ng ating bansa at mga isolated or localized thunderstorm nga ang pwede magdulot ng mga pag-ulan. So magiging maganda ang panahon o maliwanag sa panahon sa mga susunod na araw, ngunit maging handa pa rin tayo sa mga posibilidad na posibleng magkaroon ng mga low pressure area o sama ng panahon sa mga susunod na araw. Ang haring araw dito sa Kamaynilaan ay lulubog ng 5:25 ng hapon at muling sisikat dyan bukas ng 5:56 ng umaga. At para sa karagdagang impormasyon at update na rin sa magiging lagay ng panahon, may sundan sa aming mga social media accounts sa Twitter at Facebook at DUST_Pag-asa at mag-subscribe sa aming YouTube channel at dito sa DUST Pag-asa Weather Report at palagi ang bisitahin ang aming website sa bagong.pag-asa.dust.gov.ph. At yan ang latest mula rito sa Weather Forecasting Center ng Pag-asa, Raymond Ordinario nag-uulat.
Yan, this is an example of a weather forecast that shows weather symbols, weather maps. Okay, it tells us the precipitation and temperature of an area, specific places. Now let's take a peep of how a weather map looks like. So you can see the different symbols that we talk about. We have the sun, we have the clouds, and clouds with rains. These are the symbols that will show us if it's a sunny condition, stormy condition, or partly cloudy. So weather map is used to show weather facts about a specific place at a given time. It can show temperature, it can show cloud coverage, it can show if it's going to rain or snow. What is the importance of weather forecasting? Weather changes affect all living organisms, directly or indirectly. Knowing what weather to expect during the day helps you make decisions. It can be a good indicator of your planned food. Importance? You can consider the type of clothes to wear during different weather conditions. You can easily choose the games you will play if it's raining or sunny day. You can very well plan the places you would like to visit. You can think of the appropriate meals to serve and eat. Your activities can be planned ahead of time. You can even avoid sickness and diseases common during a certain season. So if it's summer, what are the diseases that we can get? So we can have or do safety precaution. If it's summer, we can put sunblock. Okay? If it's rainy day, then we can wear appropriate clothes so that we cannot get the diseases, or we can protect ourselves from diseases common in the said weather. Do you have any questions? If you have, feel free to reach out to me, message me in my messenger. Now let's have our reflection time. So according to Mark Twain, it's best to read the weather forecast before praying for rain. So we already have our weather map. We already know the weather forecast. Before we do something or differently, let's prepare for what is already there. So there are several reasons why weather forecasts are important. They would certainly be missed if they were not there. So it's important, right? So what could be the reason? It helps people prepare for how they dress. You can already see that it's going to be sunny. Are you going to cry because it's not going to rain? So you have to be happy and be prepared for a sunny condition. It can also help businesses and people plan for power production and how much power to use. So if it's sunny, they can prepare a lot of, they know that they will consume a lot of electricity, or they can prepare a lot of fans. But during rainy season, they can use lesser electricity. It can also help people prepare if they need to take extra gear or to prepare other things for the weather that will come. Yan. So now that we know what are weather forecasts, weather predictors, how are we going to use the weather maps, let us learn how to prepare. Okay? So for today's weather forecast, heavy showers of blessings, strong winds to blow your worries away, followed by warm hugs and kisses to put smile on your face. That's an amazing weather. Let's go to Genyo and answer our scientific activity and thumbs it. Here you are going to have shared blood, right? So can you share it? What is weather forecasting? Why is it important to know the weather forecast? To end our session, can you please answer thumbs it as a wrap up? If you learned a lot, click heart. If you learned some, click the thumbs up sign. And if you want to ask something, feel free to message me or click the raise hand button.